Good afternoon, councillors. Good afternoon, members of the public who are watching. Just to point out to the public so they're aware that we try and use the corporate background as much as we can, but some councillors do not have that particular facility on their systems, but they have a faded background. That's the reason why they haven't got the corporate background. If I can ask Veronica Brown to lead us into prayers, please.
Okay.
Veronica, thank you.
Thank you. Lord God, we pray for this council assembled this evening. We give you thanks for their commitment to the Isle of Wight communities, for all that they do to make our island communities a better place, for their consideration of the needs of all people, and for their seeking to understand the needs of those who are marginalized. Particularly at this time of global pandemic, its impact on lives, the NHS, and the economy, guide these councillors with wisdom to govern amid conflicting interests, a sense of welfare and the needs of the people on the Isle of Wight and its unique environment. Tonight, we pray for the councillors as they discuss the motions on the agenda this evening regarding the council's response to the coronavirus and the development of a recovery plan, the commissioning of a route and branch review of the island plan, a moratorium for particular planning applications, and the temporary withdrawal of public consultation regarding the oil application planned for Araton. At the end of this day, we ask that you give them peace in their personal lives and joy in their civic duties. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Veronica. It is.
Before you go any further, can you say Councillor Love is sharing his screen? Can you stop sharing his screen?
Councillor Love, you are sharing your screen. Could you adjust it, please? Thank you, Veronica. It is on my report. This was Veronica's last session with us. Thank you, Veronica. You've done a wonderful service. 2 years with Laura, and of course up to now. And we wish you all the best where you're going to. And keep in touch with us. Keep in touch.
Will do.
Very kind of you. I have got something for you combined with Laura, so we will make sure you get that before you move. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Could I just say thank you to everyone? It's been a real privilege for me, and I wish you all the best.
Pleasure. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
George, Councillor Brody says he's lost sound. Can you just check if he's got it back? Oh, he's got it back. Okay.
Okay, are you right, Councillor Brody? Yeah. Okay. Can we have any apologies, please? Is there any apologies received? I have not received. No apologies. So following that, I would like to advise members of the passing of the former Isle of Wight councillors, Councillor Harry Rees. We all know Harry. Councillor Smart gave me a statement to read on her behalf, which says, I would like to thank the many members, or should say friends, who sent me the condolences cards, emails, or phoned me following my husband Harry Rees' passing. The celebration of his life will be held once we come out of the virus restrictions. Surely we all felt for you. Harry was a good man. I've worked with him through the IWALC, and it was a pleasure to have known him. Also, Councillor Bill Burt, who was elected in 2005, passed away. And then, of course, Shirley Laird, who was elected in 1981 and served till 1989, who was a member for Sharfleet and that area. She was instrumental in the traffic light system where the new inn is on the way to the West Wight. I'd like to advise both members of the public and press this meeting has been recorded and broadcasted live. Mobile phones should be switched off unless they are being used for the meeting. All participants are reminded to allow for a slight pause prior to speaking for technology to catch up and display the camera image. Please only speak when I ask you to do so, and remember to turn your microphone and video on before you speak. Of course, your video should be on. Anyway, we will now move to the agenda. If we can have a look at the minutes and approve the minutes, I believe Councillor Brodie has got an amendment to make. Councillor Brodie, would you like to speak, please?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. It's not an amendment, it's just a correction. On page A5, there's a record of the vote that was taken on the substantive budget motion. It shows the voting as being 23-4, which is correct. But sadly, there were not 20 intelligent people who voted against the budget. There were only 12. So you need to alter 20 to 12. Thank you.
I will do that. And thank you very much for pointing that out, Councillor. So I'll just say.
You just propose.
I need a proposer for the.
You propose these.
I'll propose the minutes with amendments. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Stewart. Thank you very much. Yep. Could you all vote by a show of hands? Don't need to vote. Okay, fine. Thank you. That's great. I'll sign the minutes. So the minutes is accepted and signed with that amendment, the correction. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. If we can go to declarations of interest, does any members have anything to declare on items in the agenda? I have got Councillor Medland on here. Would there be anybody else? No. Councillor Medland, what is your declaration? Do we have Councillor Medland?
Thank you, Chair. It relates to the motion that I'm putting. I'm actually the Secretary of Frack Free Isle of Wight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. That is noted. If we go to public questions. The first one is from Jonathan Bacon, and I'll read it out for you. I'm pleased that the Council has acknowledged the status and importance of the Isle of Wight as a UNESCO biosphere in the recent published Visitor Charter. As stated in the press release about the Charter, our status as a biosphere is an essential part of the island's offer to visitors. I would like to ask what further recognition and support of biosphere status the Council will consider and promote in order to support our environment and the contribution it makes to the island's economy, including support for the maintenance and development of the status and its use in respect of the planning policy. Councillor Stewart, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I don't know how, I haven't had that presented to me before now, but what I can say to Mr. Bacon is that we're all as a council very proud of the fact that we are one of the 7 biosphere recognised areas in the country. It in fact influence our considerations as we go through with various projects, including, for example, the Branston project. I don't know whether my colleague Councillor Barry Abraham has got further to add, because I don't want Mr. Bacon to feel he's not had a full answer.
Okay, thank you.
You may have to ask.
Would you like to come in there, please?
Thank you, Chairman and Leader. Yes, we are going to take into account. We are discussing the future of the island plans as a an item a bit further on in the agenda, but I've been in conversation with officers how we can incorporate it and take that forward, how we can enhance everything within the island's environment. We also take great pride in that we're also been recognised as a dark sky area. So I think, you know, those things will be incorporated in the local plan.
Thank you, Councillor. That's a good response. And we have got a question from Sylvia May, submitted a written question, and that's on the particular application, planning application for oil drilling in West Arreton, west of Arreton.
Yes, I'll take that, Chair. The question was, she would like to know what further access or support would be offered to maximise public engagement over the remaining days of the consultation for UCOG's application, given its uniqueness and complexity. And my response is that the council, acting as the local planning authority, has a duty to accept planning applications when made correctly, and it will be determined by the relevant local and national planning policies in place at the time. In this case, the local planning authority has met its statutory responsibilities for publishing the application in question. Whilst it is recognised this application will be of interest to many, the local planning authority receives many applications that people consider to be controversial. The local planning authority must remain impartial. If an individual wishes to access the application information and comment, the onus is on them to do so. The application information, as submitted, is available online, with it being available for the public to comment on should they wish to do so.
Brilliant.
Comments can be submitted online or by post, with a closing date for the application in question of the 24th of July. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for that. Item 4 on the agenda is my report is attached on the along with your pack, with your papers. And I was just looking, I didn't mention the flag raising which took place in early July. Kindly assisted with help from Councillor Ward, as our Armed Forces champion. Thank you, Councillor Ward, for that. And of course, our High Sheriff and Lord Lieutenant attended as well. And that was quite a good event. Thank you very much. If we go into item number 5, which is the leaders report, leaders update. Councillor Stewart, would you like to deliver your report, please?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Chair. Members, my leaders report is presented for you paper C, and is a comprehensive document addressing topics which include our response to coronavirus, our financial position, support provided to island care homes, the work of our public health team, our children's service provision, our approach to economic recovery, waste management and regulatory services, and the work of our wider support services. As the report highlights, a great deal has happened over the last 5 months, and as members of the Isle of Wight Council, I think we should all acknowledge our appreciation for all of those who have worked so hard to keep our island community safe. As council leader, I thank all our officers and staff, and indeed all members who have contributed to our response to coronavirus. I particularly thank members of my cabinet team who have provided strong leadership and clear direction across their portfolio areas throughout these difficult times. We are now focused on enabling economic recovery to take place on the island, and we are working with individuals and businesses, as well as our town and parish councils, to build our new future. I commend this report to members, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you very much. If we could just go back, Councillor Brodie had a question. Apologies, Councillor Brodie. A comment on my report.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, it's not very responsive going through the chat box. People don't seem to be picking it up so well. I just wanted to comment on the first paragraph of your report. It's not a question. I wouldn't question the Chair's report, but you refer to the royal recognition made to West White Hubs I wouldn't want people to think only the West White Hub has been doing tremendous work during COVID-19. I'm aware of royal letters from Prince Edward and Sophie, both to Pan Together, the community hub within my ward. I'm aware that happened in Ventnor. I suspect it all happened for Aspire in Ryde as well. Now, obviously, you wrote your report before all of that, but I think it should just be recognised that this is an all-island response, not just the West White. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you for pointing that out. Yes, my report was written before I was made aware of the other awards letters has been submitted. Thank you. And Councillor Jones-Evans.
George, Jeff was first.
Oh, sorry. Question, Councillor Brodie, sorry. You have got a question on leaders' report? Sorry, you're still muted.
Bear with me, I'm just unmiking. Right. I particularly have a question regarding paragraph 29, which refers to the Newport Harbour master plan. And I'll ask this question, not as a local member, but it might be difficult for Councillor Price to do so at a full council. But Sea Close has created many waves within the Newport community since it became apparent that the Cabinet may be approving the master plan, which will permit housing to be built on the front of Sea Close recreation ground. In the leader's report, he states that our ambitious plans for Newport Harbour have been well received. Can I ask the leader if he thinks nearly 3,000 signatures on the petition organised by Councillor Price, and the fact that to date 12 of the 13 members of Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council have also endorsed a proposal calling on the Cabinet to reject that element of the master plan? Does he consider that well received? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brodie. Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Brodie, for your question. Taken as a whole, the feedback I have had is that the Newport Master Plan has been well received. However, and in fairness to you and to Councillor Price, who has indeed been working really hard for his ward and his community in raising issues he has and they have raised with him on that particular element, I can assure you and the public that we will be meeting with Councillor Matt Price, and then taking forward decisions around that once you've had that opportunity to consider it. I think there are some very strong points that Councillor Matt Price has raised. I'm also aware of the Newport Community Council's vote the other evening, which expresses concerns, and as we're a council who want to work with our community, then I want to reassure you that those important considerations will be taken into account.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Brodie, is that fine? Thank you. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, so you have got a question, please.
Thank you, Chair. On C4, item 26, again, you're talking, Leader, about the recovery and the digital connectivity. But what was sort of absent from your report, and maybe you're going to bring it up later, I don't know, but I want to talk about ask about the connectivity between the island and the mainland. The FastCat service between Ryde and Portsmouth is described as a vital link for the island, which by definition means it's absolutely necessary for our tourism and our economy. As this council is committed to sustainable transport and sustainable tourism, this rail-to-rail link is even more important. What is the Isle of Wight Council doing to get this service back into operation, and will it be in time to save our summer?
Leader.
Sorry, just having a few connections. I'm in a bit of difficulty here, Chair, because I can only answer comments on what is in my report, not what is not in my report. And as Councillor Julie Jones-Evans recognising herself, that it's not in the report. What I'm happy to do outside of this formal meeting is send her an appropriate reply to her question.
Thank you, Leader. I think that'll be appropriate. Thank you very much. Councillor Lilley, you've got a question for us, please.
Yes, I have. It's in relation to your points on the economy, items 27, 28 and 29, and also it links to the deficit in the reduction strategy on the budget, which you outline in detail. The reduction in a lot of the regeneration programs because of our budget needs caused by COVID. My question is, you do mention the biosphere, but you don't actually mention the climate emergency and the how in the recovery program it is important to have the green agenda that has been very much detailed by the government, that's extremely important. And linked with that, what is going to be the sort of job creation, because communities right across the island are going to be faced with unemployment, even though the government has put in monies. It looks as if jobs are already starting to be lost within that. As we've reduced the regeneration, or going to reduce regeneration, how are we going to start to rebuild our economy?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Councillor. I've tried to capture the essence of what you've said, but you did cover a lot of areas in your brief question. The first thing to point out, I think, is it's a deferral, not an end. So those items in the financial review that we did, which have now been deferred, are what they are. They are deferred. You'll be pleased, I'm sure, that one item we considered very carefully but have taken forward was the acquisition of Venture Keys, and that is now going into its detailed arrangements. And of course, that was very much in part because that was an organisation and the use there which was 150 island jobs, and I see island jobs as island homes as well. It is also an opportunity to, because it comes from Homes England, to improve our housing development on brownfield sites. You also have the apprenticeship schemes that we're now doing. And what we will do with those schemes that have been deferred is we will be looking to get back to them if we can, as needs be. In relation to climate change, obviously some climate emergency help has come unexpectedly by the sheer number of vehicles that aren't on the roads at the moment, and certainly weren't through the COVID environment. I'm also having conversations now with my colleagues in Portsmouth regarding their clean air zone. I was going to say CAS, but clean air zone, and how we and they can work together to achieve that. And of course, I know you pay a lot of attention to our green agenda and our waste contracts, and I'm sure where he asked, Councillor Hastings would enjoy sharing with you the fact that we have over now 10,000 people who have signed up for our waste recycling, particularly the garden waste. And if it's saving them driving on the roads and actually helping them, then I think that's a really good thing. So I would want to reassure you that our green agenda, which we have driven through a range of things, including our new strategy, which I'm sure you've read, is going to be maintained. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Can I remind councillors that your question must relate to the Leader's report only, and keep it brief. We are on the time scale here. Councillor Garrett, you next, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question builds somewhat on what Councillor Lilley has just probed. He spoke of job creation. Well, job creation depends upon business viability and also upon business creation. I wonder if the Leader could let us know whether he has any thoughts on leaving some of the items that he's referred to as being deferred, as remaining deferred, and instead repurposing some of that money towards small entrepreneurship funding that would bring forward potentially jobs much more quickly than some of the regeneration plans might do, which are certainly much more long-term aims.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Councillor Garrett. Obviously, one of the first priorities we had as a council when we were able to get time to assess the impact of coronavirus was to see where our financial position stood. And the first issue we had to address was the gap that had been created, because we have, as a local authority, spent a substantial amount of council money as well as government money in keeping a whole range of thousands, I would say, with confidence, businesses alive on the island. And we're pleased to be able to do that, because every business is a potential job and every job is a potential family. So we took that decision consciously, and we're pleased that we've been able to help. What we're now in the process of doing, and I won't ask him to answer it now unless you particularly need it, is that Councillor Hutchinson is leading on our recovery plan together with officers. And we will definitely be looking at that whole area of how we can now help businesses further as we go forward. If we were in a better position, then we can bring deferrals back if we need to. But at this stage, it's about balancing the books, which we think we can do, and then being very frugal. Is that the right word? I'm not sure. Prudent, perhaps, with our finances as we go forward. And there will, sadly, we won't save every job. But I am quite pleased with the recent feedback I'm getting from the hospitality area, where a lot of businesses are coming alive. And I'm told one business in the West White, for example, was completely full right through to the end of September. And that's a really good sign for us.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you very much. Councillor Love, you have a question?
Good evening, councillors. My question is in relation to Financial Matters 2.9. Can the council leader please update the council on the millions spent accumulating our financial assets out of the £100 million pot of loans? And I'm aware that there's that other local authorities are expressing concerns about their returns for their investments on that. So are we still safe in what we have already spent and accumulated, and are we getting the returns that we expected from those additional assets?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor.
In summary, the answer to your question is yes. We've spent some, and I won't have the exact figures in front of me, but I can get them, some 30 million of that potential 100 million that we could have accessed. And it was bringing us a return of something like £700,000 a year. Now, because we were very careful in what we invested in. And these were premises which had, obviously, we had the freehold with, and they were premises in the service and supply, in other words, storage, etc., which is very relevant at the moment. And we haven't seen a dramatic drop in our returns as other local authorities have, and which you're quite right to pick up, because I understand the government are now doing a full review of all local authorities and how they made their decisions. So thank you for that. I think we'll stand to have made some good decisions. Unfortunately, the embargo effectively, which government have now put on the use of those funds, is restricting us as like its other authorities. I'm sure if you want it, Councillor Hutchinson will more than happily give you a broader picture. But in summary, that's where we are.
Thank you, Councillor. Unfortunately, we run out of time on leaders' questions. We used all the 15 minutes, so we'll have to move on. If anybody has got a question for the leader on this report, they may submit it in writing if they wish to do so. If we move on to item 6 on the agenda, and that is allocation of committee seats, which is paper D. I'm sure we all had a look at it. It is a government requirement for us to review the representation of different political groups on committees when there's a change of political composition. So I'll move the paper forward. I'll be looking for a seconder, but first I would like to thank all the group leaders for their support in bringing these proposals forward, especially Councillor Brodie, Councillor Stevens, who's given a seat on a committee to Councillor Perks. I think it's fantastic if we can find a way to work together, and I recommend this paper. If I'm looking for a seconder, thank you.
I'll second that, Chairman. Stewart Hutchinson.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchinson. Would anybody like to speak? Councillor Andre, did you want to speak on that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, obviously this paper has come to us with the reverse proportionality for scrutiny having been removed, and whilst we do accept that, I have a question for the leader. That is it his intention to, whilst reverse proportionality is gone, to actually appoint the chair or to consider nominations for the chair of scrutiny from opposition members?
Councillor? Is that a question?
Yes, it's a question to the leader. Is it his intention to consider nominations from the opposition for chair of scrutiny?
This is a debate, unfortunately. It's a debate and not question time. We need to debate the paper. If anybody has got any comments to make on it.
Chair, I'll make a comment. I think the paper is very good. I think the acceptances that have been done by various members across the chamber reflects a positive working relationship. I think when we get to the September annual general meeting, when appointments are made in relation to, if not before, I shall be asking Councillor Garrett what his intentions are. I will be considering where we are, and hopefully by then we can have a clearer picture. But I don't, at this time, in answer to Councillor Andre, sit here with any predetermined decisions.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for that. Anybody else wish to speak on this item, on this paper? If not, we can move to the vote. Thank you very much. We take a vote by roll call, and the clerk will call out each councillor's name in turn. Shall we go for the vote? Those, I recommend option A of the paper. Those who agree with that, please raise your hand, or please answer when your name is called. Councillor Abraham?
4.
4. Councillor Axford?
Yeah, I think I come before Councillor Axford. Councillor Andre.
Do Tories first.
Councillor Axford, are you there? I'll come back to you. Councillor Bertie?
4.
4. Councillor Brading?
4.
Councillor Beston?
4.
Councillor Churchman?
4.
Councillor Chapman?
4.
Councillor Hastings?
4.
Councillor Henry?
4.
Councillor Hobart?
4.
Councillor Hollis?
4.
Councillor Hutchinson?
4.
Councillor Kilpatrick? Councillor Kilpatrick? Come back to you. Councillor Mosdell?
4.
Councillor Murwell?
4.
Councillor Nicholson? Not at the meeting. Councillor Outlaw?
4.
Councillor Pease?
4.
Councillor Price?
4.
Councillor Quirk?
4.
Councillor Ward?
4.
Councillor Tyndall?
4.
Councillor Whittle?
4.
Councillor Andre?
Apologies, Chair. 4.
Councillor Downer? Councillor Downer? I'll come back to you. Councillor Fuller? I'll come back to you. Councillor Howe?
4.
Or Councillor Medland?
4.
Councillor PC Wilcox?
Support.
Support. Councillor Stevens?
4.
Councillor Jones Evans?
4.
Councillor Love? Councillor Love?
4.
Councillor Lilley?
4.
Councillor Brodie?
4.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Barry? 4. Councillor Garrett?
4.
Councillor Perks? Councillor Smart,
For.
Councillor Stewart,
4.
and I'm for as well. We go back to Councillor Axford. Councillor Axford, probably lost the link. You didn't warn us about that. Councillor Kilpatrick.
For.
Lance.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Downer.
4.
And Councillor Fuller.
4.
Excellent. It's only Councillor Axford, which
I'm still here. Can you not hear me?
you voted for. That's it. Thank you very much, councillors. That is unanimous and it's carried. Thank you very much. If we go on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 7, and it's the appointment of the Assistant Director for Corporate Services and Monitoring Officer. That's paper E. Councillor Stewart, would you like to move?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the paper. It's the report presented by myself. I chaired the Appointments Committee. I can say that recommendations 1 and 3 were unanimously agreed by the Appointments Committee, which I chaired, and I look for a seconder to the recommendations in the report, which I propose.
I second it.
Councillor Peter Wilcox, you second that one. Thank you very much. Anybody would like to speak on this paper? Just indicate in the chat bar if you'd like to speak on it. If not, we can go straight to the vote, if you like. No, nobody wishes to speak? We can go straight to the vote. Shall we do the same again? I'll call your name and just indicate if you're for this proposal or against. Thank you very much. Councillor Abraham.
4.
Councillor Axford.
4.
Councillor Bertie. Councillor Beston.
4.
Councillor Brading.
4.
Councillor Chapman.
4.
Councillor Churchman.
4.
Councillor Hastings.
4.
Councillor Henry.
4.
Councillor Hobart.
4.
Councillor Hollis.
4.
Councillor Hutchinson.
4.
Councillor Kilpatrick.
4.
Councillor Mosdell.
4.
Councillor Murwell.
4.
Councillor Outlaw.
4.
Councillor Pease.
4.
Councillor Price.
4.
Councillor Quirk.
4.
Councillor Tyndall.
4.
Councillor Ward.
4.
Councillor Whittle.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Andre.
4.
Councillor Downer.
4.
Councillor Fuller.
4.
Councillor Howe.
4.
Councillor Medland.
4.
Councillor PC Wilcox.
Support.
Councillor Stevens.
4.
Councillor Julie Jones Evans.
4.
Councillor Love.
4.
Councillor Lilley.
4.
Councillor Brodie.
Against, and I would like it recorded as such.
I will do so. Councillor Barry.
4.
Councillor Garrett.
4.
Councillor Smart. Councillor Smart. Oh, that's it. We got you. Councillor Stewart.
4.
Thank you. That's all the councillors. 1 against. So that motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We go on to item 8 on the agenda. That's the new combined fire authority precept. That's paper F in your back on the agenda. And I'm looking for somebody to move it. This will be a named vote.
I'll move it, Chair.
Councillor Stewart, you move the paper? Thank you.
Yes, I'll move the paper. Members have the paper in front of them. presented at paper F, and it's supported by further information at Appendix 1. As members will see, the report has been prepared and presented by the Director of Finance and myself. This is a report relating to the new Combined Fire Authority, which will come into place in the next year. As members will see, at paragraph 11 to 13 on page 3 of the report, the financial implications for island residents are explained. And as the majority of island households are rated at band C level and would pay an additional £5.35 per year, or the equivalent of 10p per week, for the new Combined Fire Authority, which will be serving Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. The recommendations are presented at paragraphs 33 and 34 on page F6 of the report, which is what I propose and for which I look for a seconder.
Chair, I'll second that. Gary Peace.
Thank you, Councillor Peace. Thank you for doing that. We have got Councillor Lilley who would like to speak on this paper. This is a debate. It's not no questions. It's a debate, Councillor.
Well, I basically. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm a bit confused by it because it says in a way that there is a nil impact on Hampshire residents, but there obviously appears to be an impact on Isle of Wight residents, and I don't totally understand the rationale. The way I sort of read it is previously we paid for the fire as part of the council tax on the island. Now, in a sense, the council tax isn't necessarily going to be altered. In fact, it probably could be increased next year. We've actually got an actual precept being paid for the fire, similar to the police commission. So it seems to me that even though we've given away all the capital assets regarding the fire service, that actually we're island residents are actually paying an extra sort of an amount for it. I'm not quite sure why this is, and this seems to be my interpretation from that. I would like to get a response at the end from the from Councillor Stewart, because that will affect how I vote for this. Because I actually don't necessarily feel this does actually is fair to Isle of Wight residents compared to the nil effect on Hampshire residents, and the fact that we only have one representative, whereas Hampshire have more.
Thank you.
Within that.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart, would you like to?
No, to debate.
Anybody else would like to speak before? Councillor Andre.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, following on from Councillor Lilley, having read this paper in detail and having read the appendix, I look at the three options put forward, and whilst potentially I understand the rationale behind it, and I think it's largely to do with the demographics of, well, maybe not so much the demographics of the island, but the level of Band D households affected and the income that generates. I'm at a loss as to how I can explain this to my residents, where on the face of it, the impact on residents in Hampshire is nil, but the impact on residents of the Isle of Wight is that they are going to be paying yet another tax at a time where they can ill afford to pay it. So I will not be voting for, I cannot vote for any of these options. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much. Councillor Stevens, you are next. Would you like to speak on it? If you unmute your microphone, please, Councillor Stevens.
I'm trying my best. Hold on.
Can you? Thank you. Yeah.
Have you got me?
Yes, we got you.
At last. Sorry about that. The trouble with the button here to try and unmute myself. Briefly, we're looking at an amount here, yet the CSR is still going through procedures with the Home Office and the LGA and ministers. So I wonder how we can actually come up with a figure at this time. So I shall be voting against this. You'll probably be able to put me right, Councillor Stewart, but I just feel that this is cart before the horse time. And I did say when we were moving over to an amalgamation with Hampshire that this will be following. You might well remember in the council chamber that I did mention this, and it seems like it's a taxation by stealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Jones-Evans, you would like to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just some clarity, I guess, other members are asking for. The way I'm reading it is that the £62.18 that's been calculated, which would be spread over 12 months or 10 months as a separate council tax, or a separate bill on your council tax, that presumably will be coming out of what we're currently paying, because that is going to be shown as a separate figure. Is that yes? Is that about right? Yes. So I think that needs to be really explained clearly to residents, that it was already in, that figure was already in the main council tax, and now it's being shown separately. So, but that if it's on top, if we're paying on top, I think that is an issue. So some clarity will be great. If anyone else is going to be speaking who understands it, has got right underneath it, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Garrett, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Anybody who has no expertise in this area, and finances of course is an area that needs much expertise, would wonder why something that was sold to us as being an efficiency gaining change to the arrangements for our fire and rescue services is leading to increases in costs to Isle of Wight Council residents. The argument as to whether or not it shall be combined, of course, it is over and done with. The Secretary of State's decision is there, etc., etc. What is going to be very, very clear then, of course, is the degree of scrutiny. We're going to have to depend very much on one lone representative on the authority and whatever other scrutiny arrangements are in place to ensure that the Isle of Wight residents are getting the value for money that they would be expect and be told to expect from combining in this way. If anything that the last 4 months has shown us in particular is the degree of cohesion there is in our community and the degree of self-reliance that we can show. And yet again, we're seeing a service that has been under our own control is moving away. I know there are arguments that it's moving away in terms of a combination of a kind of sovereignty, but all the same, it is a moving away. So I find it very difficult to support any of the options here because there isn't really that level of plain English explanation as to why we have found ourselves in a situation that we seem to be paying more and not with any guarantee of getting more in return.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Councillor Pease, you've got a comment to make.
Thank you, Chair. I think members are looking at this completely the wrong way. This is about us increasing the resilience of our own fire service on this island. It wasn't, quite frankly, it wasn't good enough previously because we weren't funding it properly. This is the only way we can fund it. This is the only way we can upskill our own fire officers and the Hampshire fire officers. And by combining those authorities, we actually get an equal say, depending on our size, across the whole fire authority. So that's a false message. This is about increasing safety and increasing resilience for this island and for our people. And actually, it's a really small price to pay to have increased resources, increased fire engines, increased training, and a better service. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pease. Thank you very much. Councillor Love, you wish to speak? Councillor Love, if you unmute. Shall we come back to you? I will take Councillor Hutchinson next, please.
Thank you, Chairman. One of the things that we had to put forward in our business case was to show how the combined fire authority would have equal standards across the whole authority. And that is why this money is called harmonisation monies. It is enabling us to bring ourselves up to those standards. And in fact, on page F6, paragraph 31, it does actually identify that the money would be spent on additional investment and improvements for our own fire service. And it makes mention of the fact that we will need effective communication to everyone to explain what that will be. So I shall be voting in favour of the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much. Councillor Love, are you able to come back to us? No. Does any other member wish to speak? And then, of course, we'll go to the vote.
Do you wish me to sum up, Chair?
Sorry?
I think
Councillor Love, you're back. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies. I seem to be having problems with my communication here too. I agree with Councillor Garrett in his in his comment there. I mean, this is the first time that we've heard this new phrase, harmonisation monies, and the whole point of us amalgamating our combined fire authorities was actually to reduce the impacts. And in these very difficult times that we now see in the future, to suddenly be faced with an additional cost above that of our neighbours in Hampshire is quite frankly ridiculous. This is the first that we've heard of this, and it actually looks like a stealth tax to me, which nobody else is paying. Where has this suddenly come from? And I think it needs a lot of explanation to the people of our island. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Love. Thank you very much. Councillor Barry.
Thank you. I didn't know how you did it to make so you could speak. Can you hear me?
Oh yes, clearly.
It's nice to hear all these mainlanders being so happy at giving away one of our primary services, the fire brigade. But it's been decided by the Tories ever since they took the council over to get rid of it. Not only are they getting rid of it, the Isle of Wight people are going to have to pay more for it. I think it's a shame, but nothing can be done. It's just one of them things. In the end, there won't be nothing left on the Isle of Wight. It'll all be run from Hampshire. I said this from day one. It's being proved here today. All these people with lovely ideas saying we'll be representative. We'll have one member of the Tory group speaking for all the people on the Isle of Wight regarding the fire brigade. That's not having your own fire brigade.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Thank you very much. Nobody else wishes to speak. Councillor Stewart, would you like to sum up, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I just need to remind members of the journey on this. It was in the earlier business case that we would need to harmonise the tax levels across both Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. Hampshire residents currently pay more than the Isle of Wight for their services, and what this is doing is making sure that everybody in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight pays the same. This is a new fire authority approved by the Secretary of State. And we are effectively creating, as we have now with the police, the Hampshire Police is part of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, and that's why we get a separate precept. This fire service that we have will harmonise over the payments. You've heard me quote the figures. I don't need to repeat that, and that's not huge. I think everyone in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight will then be paying the same as a result of this. And you will recall the Deputy Chief Fire Officer coming to one of our recent committees and explaining more about that and took questions. I agree totally with what Councillor Hutchinson has articulated, and don't forget the assets and the liabilities move across to the new fire authority. So we can't have our cake and eat it here, but because I'm impressed with our fire service as it currently stands, which is Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, I'm quite comfortable recommending that members vote in favour of this. But at the end of the day, that's why we have democracy, and members must now make their choice.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Thank you very much. We'll now go to a vote. This will be recorded as a named vote. We'll make a start on Councillor Abraham. Would you indicate, please?
4.
Councillor Axford.
4.
Councillor Bertie.
4.
Councillor Beston.
4.
Councillor Brading.
4.
Councillor Chapman.
4.
Councillor Churchman.
4.
Councillor Hastings.
4.
Councillor Henry.
4.
Councillor Hobart.
4.
Councillor Hollis.
4.
Councillor Hutchinson.
4.
Councillor Kilpatrick.
4.
Councillor Mosdell.
4.
Councillor Merrill.
4.
Councillor Outlaw.
4.
Councillor Peace.
4.
Councillor Price.
4.
Councillor Quirk.
4.
Councillor Tyndall.
4.
Councillor Ward. Councillor Ward.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Whittle.
4.
Councillor Andre.
Against.
Councillor Downer.
Against.
Councillor Fuller.
Against.
Councillor Howe. Councillor Howe. We can come back to you. Councillor Medland.
Against.
Councillor P.C. Wilcox.
Abstain.
Abstain. Councillor Stevens.
Against.
Councillor Jones Evans.
Against.
Councillor Love.
Against.
Councillor Lilley.
Against.
Councillor Brodie.
Against.
Councillor Barry.
Against.
Councillor Garrett.
Against.
Councillor Smart.
Against.
Councillor Stewart.
4.
And I'll vote for. Thank you.
Back to Councillor Howe.
Back to Councillor Howe. Councillor John Howe. Are you able to unmute and indicate your vote? No. No response. So we leave it like that. 22, 24, 4. Up again, and 1 abstain. Thank you. That motion is carried. The paper, as proposed by Councillor Stewart, is carried. Thank you very much, councillors. I am going to call for a short break. Our officers here needs a break as well. So I'm going to call for a 10-minute break, and I'll see you in 10 minutes. If you just at 6:10, we'll be back. If you unmute, if you mute your microphone, please. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, councillors. Sorry about the delay. I was locked out and just wouldn't let me back in. But thank you to our officers here who helped me. And we can carry on now. We are looking at item number 9 on the agenda. and it's motion submitted under Procedure Rule 11 of the Council's Constitution. We're going to go 1 hour for all the items on here. So the first one is by Councillor Stewart. Councillor Stewart, would you like to?
Thank you, Chair. Members, my motion reads that Council endorses the approach taken by the administration in response to coronavirus and improves development of a recovery plan that looks to rebuild the economy of the island and at the same time ensures that the continued protection of the island community. As detailed in my leader's report, which was presented earlier to full council, the Island Conservative Administration, working with many other individuals and partners, has, I believe, provided a comprehensive and effective approach in response to coronavirus. Although any death is tragic and many good people have passed on as a result of the virus, I'm able to report that as at today, our infections remain relatively low at just 422 confirmed cases. When reviewing my report and considering the intensive and flexible approach taken by the Isle of Wight Council in response to a pandemic which has swept the world, I am proud of what we have collectively achieved so far. I recognise that the battle is not yet over, and indeed we must all remain vigilant and ensure we follow all the guidance and keep ourselves and our community safe. That is why so much effort has been put into communications at all levels and in a variety of media forums. I pay tribute to our media team who have worked with me to ensure people have been informed and advised of the important information they need about coronavirus. The second part of our approach is now to develop and deliver a recovery plan that looks to rebuild the island and continues to protect our island community. Working together, we will achieve this goal, and I now ask full council to endorse our approach as we move forward. And I look for a seconder for my motion, which I believe Councillor Mosdell is happy to do and will speak to the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Mosdell. You'd like to second this, Councillor Mosdell?
I would like to second it, and I would like to speak to the motion, please.
Thank you. Would you like to speak now or reserve the right?
I will speak now.
If you would, please. Thank you.
I'll just wait for your live camera. Okay, a vital component of this council's response to COVID-19 has pertained to adult social care and homeless people. The people in need and use these services are amongst the most vulnerable residents of this island, and so it's been imperative that we really gave emphasis to these areas in our corporate response. I'm truly proud of the huge efforts made by staff. They literally have saved lives. I will start with housing. Very quickly into the pandemic, as part of its emergency legislation, government introduced an easement of the council's duties towards homeless people, insofar as councils did not have to establish that someone was either intentionally homeless or a member of priority need group before regarding them as homeless and having a duty towards them. In addition, councils were given 48 hours to get all homeless people using dormitory style accommodation, such as that provided by our winter shelter at Barton, and rough sleepers into self-contained accommodation. This was achieved, and at one stage in April, this resulted in our housing needs service supporting 81 homeless people. But our housing needs service did not finish there. They also commissioned support for these people, as several had poor mental health and or substance misuse needs, and their access to these other services was fundamentally changed because of COVID. Moreover, our housing needs service have been needing 3 times a week multi-agency meetings with partners, including the police, health, social care and substance misuse services. So even though it remains the case that some services cannot actually meet with the homeless person and deliver the service in the way that they did previously, there is a real grip about who is going to support that homeless person. We have also retained our performance in there not being a single child living in bed and breakfast accommodation during the entire pandemic. That remains the case as of today. It has been very important that we supported the island's independent care providers, and officers have worked tirelessly to do so. One example pertains to PPE. The council established a single route for any care provider facing extreme shortages of PPE. Since 7th of April, the council has made available over 256 units of PPE to different care providers on the island at no cost. Care providers' needs of PPE has been unprecedented during COVID-19, and they have faced hyper cost inflation in purchasing PPE. So in addition to emergency free supplies, the council has also enabled care providers to purchase at cost from its own stock of PPE that we very sensibly procured at the beginning of April. Finally, we have seen 27 community hubs established during the pandemic, and literally hundreds of volunteers have come forward to meet the needs of over 5,000 people who have been shielding. The efforts of the voluntary and community sector have been invaluable in this Herculean task. Indeed, it is one of the island's jewels that we must ensure continues to shine brightly post-COVID-19.
Sorry, Councillor, your 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
I've got one
finish next sentence. Make the next point.
In conclusion, therefore, I enclose this motion. As a Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care, Housing and Public Health, I am proud, humbled and inspired by how the needs of vulnerable people during COVID-19 have been prioritised and met during this dreadful time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I know there's some brilliant work that's gone on in Ireland, and I would like to thank everybody who's been involved with that. And it showed the community strength we got on Ireland. Councillor Laura Peacey-Wilcox, you would like to speak, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, thank goodness for Claire Mosdale, Councillor Mosdale, because actually she has fully acknowledged the staff. In this motion, the wording from Councillor Stewart is both conceited, vain and quite frankly rude. To say that it was the administration that took this approach, it wasn't just the administration, it was an awful lot of other people, as Councillor Mosdale has just said. And I think he really needs to rethink that wording. I think it's an absolute insult to think that it was just the administration, and that should be taken out. The island suffered, we all pulled together, and to say the administration, I just think it's conceited, vain and rude. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fuller, you'd like to speak? Councillor Fuller?
I'm just coming in. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think Laura stole my thunder very much on this. I think we've had so many people pulling together. We've had our officers within the council. Some of our officers have really pushed this very hard. And I think we need a resolution that actually thanks our officers for the efforts that they put in. But in addition to that, we've had key workers, volunteers, businesses, education providers, healthcare providers, waste crews, and our town and parish councils. They have gone up, they've been asked to step up to the plate. The leader asked them to step up the plate. The leader asked us to step up to the plate. And I find that the resolution is a little bit supercilious. I feel that it should be much more inclusive of everybody that's been involved and not just the administration. And that is why I cannot support the wording of the motion. I think it should be changed to be much more inclusive of everybody that's been involved. I feel quite insulted by some of the wording, and I would like it to be changed because I feel slightly offended by the motion that the administration has done everything that they possibly can. I think we've all been involved in this, and I would like to see that being much more inclusive. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Councillor Andre, you wish to speak next?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to add to that, whilst I fully appreciate that much recognition has been given to the various different organisations through Councillor Stewart's Leaders Update, and very much appreciate that. And I agree with Councillor Mosdale, the work that has been done, I mean, not to highlight any particular area, but specifically within adult social care, and has just been incredible. But what we're actually being asked to vote for here, let's be clear, is a motion that endorses the approach taken by the administration. And on that basis, if a member of the public looks at the motion that we've actually voted through, they're not going to compare it to the Leaders Update. They're not going to look at all the other work that has been done. So in isolation, I cannot vote for this motion, and I ask that it be withdrawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lilley.
Thank you. I wish to agree with my opposition councillors in their sentiments, but I also wish to thank Councillor Mosdale for putting things into context and recognise this should be a whole community. Thank you. We have all worked at different levels, cross-party, across the whole island, in actually getting our communities through this ordeal. And I think we do need to collectively have that and share that together. It shouldn't use the word administration. I think that that actually does offend, as people have actually said. We do need to try and find wording that actually says we have done this recovery together. I think in the conversations I had as Mayor of Ryde with the leader, it was about us working together, putting our political differences apart and really coming through together. And I think that the community groups that came together, actually the voluntary sector and the parish town council came together on their own on the 17th of March to respond by the 18th of March, and actually then worked with the Isle of Wight Council. They came spontaneously together. They were not instructed. They were not as sort of advised. That those communities, whether it's from Bembridge to Totland to Ryde, East Cowes, all over Pan Estate, they came together. They were not actually asked to. They voluntarily came out and said, we will be together as an island. And we need to really honour that within that. All the hundreds, if not thousands of volunteers on this island, and all the workers, whether it was a worker in Tesco's, in shops, the corner shops, we have had a huge community effort, and we should acknowledge that in any wording talking about COVID and COVID recovery.
Thank you, Councillor Lilley. Councillor Jones-Evans, you're next to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, again, to endorse what my colleagues have said, firstly in thanking Councillor Mosdale for her words, for praising adult social care, and again for this has to be a community approach. We have to thank everybody that put their time in and sacrificed so much during this unprecedented time. It's a time which actually should transcend politics and not get bogged down by it. And let's just remember that situation we were in and are in still. Let's not forget. I will say thank you very much for Councillor Stewart himself, Councillor Peace, to Community Action, Age UK, and to John Metcalf for helping Newport get set up. Pan together were doing a great job, and the rest of Newport needed some assistance. So I will thank them so much that we were able to move forward and get that community response for the rest of Newport. So thank you very much. The other, I'm not going to dwell any more on the first part of the motions. I think that's been well spoken of. But the issue I have is the recovery plan, because I don't think we have handled recovery quite so well. Many councillors this evening will be aware that I was pushing and cajoling and doing my very best to get a really good response to the social distancing measures, doing my best to ensure there was more space for walking, more space for cycling, an approach to social distancing that was actually pleasant to look at and not what we have in front of us facing us at the moment. I mean, what one person has said to me, it's like you know, it's actually telling us not to come here. The red and white is very, very scary and it's saying, please don't come here. So that actually is detrimental to the recovery of our town centres. You know, we're telling people to come to the Isle of Wight. It's such a beautiful place to be, and yes, it is, but you come to our town centres and they're not welcoming. And in fact, to make people more anxious because there isn't the space for people to social distance, is actually damaging more than you can realise. And we've spent, I believe, £120,000 on creating this. It's quite shocking, especially because I started, you know, tried from this. I wrote to the cabinet on the 7th of May to try and take this approach, but obviously clearly fell on deaf ears. So, you know, part of the recovery plan, yeah, I can probably go with, but I think it's, if we've taken gone off on the wrong foot. I think what would have been better if we'd actually taken the community response people that are working on that and then transferred those people when at the right time into recovery. They would have had a better understanding about what the community needed and what the island needed, rather than having this silo-based approach, is what it appears to be to me. So I'm afraid I won't be supporting this motion for obviously the first section, why it's politicised, and for the second because I don't believe we have got the recovery plan right.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Thank you. Councillor Garrett, you're next to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I think if these were just words spoken out loud by the Leader of the Council, we could probably excuse him on misspeaking. That he would have misspoken, intending to say at least the word authority rather than administration, because it is the authority that is responded in a large part. Ideally, of course, that word would be a phrase that would not just the authority, but every single last person on this island should be recognised in one way or another. Certainly those towns, parishes, community councils that have come together, the community groups that have come together across our island are worthy, surely, of being recognised in this. And it's not something that the Leader of the Council should have forgotten, because at line item 43 of the paper on the recovery plan to Cabinet only 6 weeks ago, it does say that further work is needed to acknowledge the efforts of the island community in responding to the pandemic. Quite clearly, further work does indeed need to be done by the administration, as this motion sets out. I concur with Councillor Jones-Evans in terms of the recovery plan. At the moment, we have something of a skeletal plan. It sets out many principles, but the action plan that went to Cabinet ran out pretty much at the end of June, and we don't get to see another report on the recovery plan until Cabinet now in September. So I'm not sure, on the basis of the evidence alone of just some dots and barriers, which have been extraordinarily expensive, that we can say that everything is rosy about the recovery plan. But that's a small point, and I wouldn't want to dwell on that. I think we need to, though, come back, and I hope that the Leader of the Council may have picked up my voicemail to him this afternoon, where I suggested to him that he could change the wording and indeed thereby secure much wider support for this. But clearly, by his opening remarks, where he mentioned the name of his political party, and I deprecate that. I really do deprecate that. We are still in the middle of a pandemic. This is not the time for political parties to claim any credit, really, whatsoever. It is all of us in this community on the Isle of Wight, all of us in the community of the United Kingdom, across our whole planet, that have been pulling together on this. And some of us, I know, have suffered the worst because of this, one way or another. So, Leader of the Council, please either change your wording or withdraw your motion.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Councillor Barry, you indicated that you wish to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. I was going to second Andrew's amendment. We talked about this afternoon, and Andrew said he would speak today because he was sure that he would understand. I didn't want to vote against it because I thought that might give a message to all them people, all our staff, John Metcalf and all the rest, that I didn't appreciate all that they've done. This seems to say it ain't them, it's the Tories doing it. And it ain't the Tories doing it, it's everybody. And I think if we could have got hold of David in the nicest possible way and spoke to him and said our feelings, I think he would have seen what we're saying is sense. And if you listen to what's on tonight, what's been said tonight, I think most people would agree. One of the times I spoke to one of the administration was Claire, when I was trying to find 4 places for some health workers who came to the island looking for bed and breakfast to work at St Mary's. And to be fair to Claire, she found them accommodation within minutes. And I was really impressed with that. And I appreciate it. And I think that sort of thing is, but that's got nothing to do with Claire being a Tory councillor. That's got to do with Claire being a caring person and all working together.
I'm a Conservative, not a Tory. I'd rather.
Well, all right, sorry, you're a Conservative Tory. I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Anyway, I've said all I'm going to say. If Andrew wants to move that we change it, an amendment, I'm willing to second it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. We've still got a few speakers on this. Councillor Downer, are you next to speak? Councillor Downer? Can you hear us? Could you unmute, please? We can come back to you. Councillor Love, you also indicated you would like to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you,
Thank you. Yes. Yes, I think that if the part of the report in the leaders' report had been put into the motion with different wording, I think we would have been okay. But I also like to commend Councillor Mulsdale for her very good seconding and recognising all the community spirit, the tremendous help from the community and all the people that have helped, and to get through this crisis has been very good. But I think if the wording was changed, we would have been all right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much. Councillor Love, are you able to join us?
I am, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Councillor Stewart for bringing the motion forward. It was well intended, but sadly it then started to lose its way, sadly. And personally, I would always want to thank all of the officers and everybody involved, not only at County Hall, but across the island, as per se. But for me, I would want to reserve my support until after I'd seen further down the line scrutiny of what has occurred during this pandemic. And so therefore, I would genuinely like to suggest that the motion is withdrawn and brought back at a later date, at some point after when we've all had chance to recover from this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Love. Councillor Brodie, would you like to speak, please?
Thank you, Chair. I could add to the sense of disgust that from opposition members, but I won't bother. I think it's all been said. I'd like to formally propose an amendment to this motion that hopefully everybody can get behind. And all I want to do is to remove the word administration and replace it with island community. They're exactly the same 2 words at the end of the motion. This motion should be about the island community, which this council seeks to represent. And I can't believe that any member of this council could oppose a motion with those words rather than administration, and I seek a seconder. Thank you.
I second that, yeah.
Councillor Lilley, second that. We need to debate that one first. The amendment. Would anybody like to speak on the amendment?
Yes, Chair, I'd like to speak to it.
Councillor Brodie, you first.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, because I'm aware we've got one important motion at the end of our agenda, not so bothered about the second one, but the important one I'd like to get on to. But it seems to me that Councillor Mosdell is one of the sensible members of this ruling group, a bit like Councillor Price, my own local councillor, with his attitude to see close. Sadly, I can't say that of all of them. And Claire, you should probably write the motions in future. Certainly, I think Councillor Stewart, as the leader, has just wound up everybody. If this gets out to anybody, because it'll go through if it stays as it is, I think there would be disgust amongst many of the community hubs. And therefore, I hope that this reflects what Claire talked about earlier, and that we can, as a council, accept it. Well, I would hope Councillor Stewart would accept the amendment. You haven't asked him that yet, Chair. He may well accept it. I would hope he would accept it. And I will say, at the end of this, when we vote on the amendment, I want a named vote, and I seek 3 people to support me with that named vote now. Thank you.
I support that.
Thank you, Councillor Lilley. Councillor Garrett.
Councillor Garrett, you need one more.
We need one more.
Councillor Jones Evans.
I'm happy to
Councillor
support
Love.
it.
Councillor Love.
Councillor Love,
Yeah.
Councillor Andre. Thank you. Councillor Stewart, do you accept the amendment?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yes.
Obviously was going to save my comments for the end, but in order to do what I think all good leaders should do when something intended doesn't have the effect you expect, the principle which I detailed when I spoke is that this has been ourselves working with many other individuals and partners, and the principle I do accept. If I read it back to Councillor Brodie, that would read that this council endorses the approach taken by the island community in response to coronavirus and improves development of a recovery plan that looks to rebuild the economy of the island, at the same time ensures the continued protection of the island community. I'm comfortable accepting that because I, for one, have made a pioneering effort to keep our community together. And yes, we are the lead authority, but it is everybody. There are so many unsung heroes. I'd actually written the words, all those involved, and I was trying to think whether that covers all those involved because it's so easy to forget someone. But if members, and this will be an interesting test of our trueness across the council now, so I'm happy to accept the amendment, Island Community, and I'll be interested in the name vote to see if my colleagues, who are not all of our political persuasion, can be as humble themselves.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Mosdale, you seconded Councillor Stewart's initial motion. Do you accept the amendment?
I absolutely accept the amendment. I think we do need to make sure, as I've emphasised, this has been an all-island piece of work. But what I do want to reiterate is we are not at the end. We are not at the end of this pandemic. So we can all congratulate each other. But what we need to do is keep really aware that we are not at the end of the pandemic now. We talk about recovery and economy, but we have a long way to go yet. So we need to make sure that we do support the local community, because we will still need them and everything that has been involved in the work that's been carrying on so far, and to support each other.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Mosdale. I've got Councillor Pearce. Councillor Pearce, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm just coming back to really what all the other members have said. Undoubtedly, this has been a community effort and a island-wide effort, and you cannot mention, as Councillor Stewart said, you cannot mention the numbers of people involved. As myself as a cabinet member, I've gone to great lengths to thank all of my team involved, as have all the other cabinet members at various points in this. But I think it's also important to point out that what this administration has shown is leadership, and it's been strong leadership, and it's been well thought out. Without that leadership that we have shown as a Conservative cabinet and a Conservative group in charge of this island's council, without that, you would not have had the coordinated effort that you've had across the island. You would not have had the success that's been achieved. And this leadership comes from a solid, competent administration, and that's something that the island has only had since we were elected as a Conservative group some 3 years ago. So I'm completely on board with the changes and what everyone said, but it should be recognised that it's through our leadership that the success we've had has been as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Councillor Hastings, you would like to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I was going to say something similar to Councillor Pearce, but I would like to add a little more. and that is we've heard quite a lot of comment, and Councillor Brodie a short while ago, people have been, opposition members have been complaining about the rudeness of the motion, and I think he was quite rude about us. But I just hope that Councillor Brodie and others remember when we come to budget round, which is approaching rapidly, that they don't do what they've done in previous years and suggest we spend our reserves, because if we had on previous occasions, we would have been like many other authorities in the country heading for a section 114 by now. We would effectively be bankrupt. So it's a good job we didn't listen then, and good job we led in the right way to end up where we are now. And I have no problem with the amendment whatsoever, and it says it in some 7 pages of the leader's report and Councillor Mosdale's speech, which was superb. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hastings. I would like to bring in Councillor John Howe. If you would unmute, please. Councillor Howe. No. Are you there, Councillor Howe? I'll bring in.
I'm here.
Okay. Would you like to speak?
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. I would like to thank, first of all, I'd like to thank Jeff for his amendment, which I thought was excellent. I'd also like to think the best of our leader of the council, to think that he has made a mistake and he was big enough to admit it and to actually change it. But most of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Mosdale for her speech. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It was so nice to hear a councillor speak out like she did, and I'm glad her horse is better as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much. Councillor Brodie, you've got a procedural motion. If you'd like to unmute.
Hold on.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. We've been speaking regarding this issue for over 45 minutes now. I'd like to move that we move to the vote. The amendment's been accepted. I don't think there could be much more else to say, and I would like to move on. And I'll look for a seconder. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Second that, Councillor Mosdale, second. Yes, I think so, because, yeah, sufficiently debated. We go to the vote. Do you want to call? Do you want to call, Megan? Sorry. Thank you. Name vote on this one. We recorded as such. Councillor Abraham.
Support.
For the motion for amendment. Councillor Axford.
For.
Or Councillor Bertie.
For the amendment.
Councillor Beston.
Absolutely for the amendment.
Councillor Brading.
Yeah, for the amendment.
Councillor Chapman.
Absolutely for the amendment.
Can you just say for or against?
Leader. Sorry, yeah, we need to correct that. This is a substantive motion.
Absolutely.
It's been changed. Sorry, Jeff. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Brodie. Yeah, it's a substantive motion that has just been amended. So we vote on that. Okay, clear? Councillor. So the council endorses the approach taken by the island community to respond in response to the coronavirus and approves the development of a recovery plan that looks to rebuild the economy on the island and at the same time ensures the continued protection of the island community. That reads right. So that is what we vote on. Councillor Churchman.
For.
Councillor Hastings.
For.
Councillor Henry.
For.
Councillor Hobart.
Sorry, I was muted.
Councillor Hollis.
For.
Councillor Hutchinson.
For.
Councillor Kilpatrick. We can come back to Councillor Kilpatrick. Councillor Mosdale.
I clicked
Anyway.
it.
Councillor Mosdale. Yeah. We can come back to him. Councillor Murwell.
4.
Councillor Outlaw.
4.
Councillor Peace.
4.
Councillor Price.
4.
Councillor Quirk.
4.
Councillor Tyndall.
4.
Councillor Ward.
4.
Councillor Whittle.
4.
Councillor Andre.
4.
Councillor Downer.
4.
Councillor Fuller. Councillor Howe.
4. What about Councillor Fuller? I didn't get that.
What's Councillor Fuller said?
Yeah.
That's Councillor Fuller.
Councillor Fuller. Councillor Fuller, did you indicate? We come back.
4.
Councillor 4, that's it. Thank you. Councillor Medland. Oh, something's gone wrong here. Councillor Medland. Councillor Medland.
4. Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor PC Wilcox.
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
4.
Councillor Jones Evans.
4.
Councillor Love.
4.
Councillor Lilley.
4.
Councillor Brodie.
4.
Councillor Barry. Councillor Barry. Councillor Garrett.
4.
Councillor Smart.
4.
Councillor Stewart.
4.
Your motion. I vote 4 as well. We're looking for Councillor Barry.
4. Can you hear it?
Got you. Yep.
All right.
And Councillor Kilpatrick. No, not there. Thank you.
Councillor Mosdale. You didn't get Councillor Mosdale.
Councillor Mosdale. Councillor Mosdale. No. Lost her.
She's lost internet connection, Chair. She's just posted.
She posted. Okay, right. Councillor Fuller, yes. Yeah, got it. Thank you. 36 for, none against. Thank you. That is carried. Thank you very much. We're going to the next part of the item. It's Councillor Michael Lilley, please. Would you present your paper?
Chair.
Hi there.
Sorry, Councillor Brady.
We can see Councillor Barry's screen. Can you stop sharing your screen?
Councillor Barry, can you stop sharing your screen?
Well, if you tell me how.
Sorry.
Move your arrow down, Barry. If you click on the TV screen with a cross on it.
All right, I'll turn the camera off here.
No, click on the box with the cross on. That's it.
All right.
We'll give him a call. He's done it.
All right.
Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Very clever.
Okay, Councillor Lilley. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. The first thing I wish to do is amend the motion, my motion to delete item 2, which is that the motion in fact will just be that this council commission a report and branch review of the island plan in light of revision required post COVID-19, as the island plan still is draft, is not fit for purpose. Any such review should be subject to a full public consultation. I'm amending this as I believe a moratorium should be the ethical and moral thing to do in the context of COVID-19, but I accept that legally it would provide more advantage to large-scale developers, as they would have the right of appeal. I am writing to our MP to ask the minister to write to the minister to consider a moratorium under COVID-19 restrictions, as members of local authorities have done in Wales. My inclusion of part of this was to particularly emphasize that the COVID pandemic has been the most traumatic national event since the Second World War, and the community has had to face a totally new experience of social isolation, social distancing and lockdown. Many have been furloughed from their jobs and have no idea what the future will bring. Many, especially the elderly and those with health issues, have shielded and only now making the steps back into the community. People are traumatized and simply exhausted. How in these circumstances can residents engage in any meaningful consultation, communicate their concerns and objections, and get their voice heard in regard to large developments next to where they live? Many are not online and cannot go to meetings collectively and have difficulty accessing support. The large developers have access to the expertise they need to argue their case online and in media fully. Residents do not and are facing poverty in the current crisis. Their human rights under the 1998 Human Rights Act are being infringed. They are totally disadvantaged. The reality is the planning process in the island is stacked heavily towards the developer and landowner, and the lack of clarity in the current and draft plan provides opportunity for developers to be in the driving seat. COVID-19 and the current disempowerment of residents to actively engage in the planning process just pour fuels on the bitterness many residents feel. The phrase "cart before the horse" describes the current process that if you use Ryde as an example, Ryde Town Council is saying continually we need a road infrastructure for the whole town that is fit for the purpose and is in place before any large developments. Over 2,000 possible new houses are given permission or start. My residents are faced with a pending application for 2 new applications for up to 525 houses and still waiting for the controversial Pennyfeathers development. 3 of the developments state they have GP surgeries included, but never spoken to CTG at any time when braiding surgery closed and 1,000 patients transferred to Ryde existing surgery. This is simply no joined up thinking. I wish members to support this motion. COVID has changed everything. We are totally in a new situation. We have to stop and reconsider our housing needs, our jobs, our health. These private housing developments with an average cost of 350,000 plus, even with per house, with 20% reduction for affordability, are out of the pocket of Isle of Wight residents with a job, but many might not have a job in the future. Who will buy these homes? Second homeowners, retirees from mainland with cash. We need to review the island plan urgently in the context of COVID-19, climate change and the economic reality we are faced with. Thank you.
You've gone over your time, sorry. Do you have a seconder for that?
Yes, Chair, Councillor Andre, I'd like to second.
Andre, you second that one? Councillor Abraham, you've got an amendment.
Would
you like to put that?
Okay, I have, Chairman. If I could read it out. This council supports the position of the Cabinet to hold a full review of the island plan, taking into account the likely impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and agrees with the position statement made by the Cabinet Member for Planning and Housing at the Cabinet meeting held on the 9th of July 2020, as set out below. For some weeks, I have been in dialogue with the senior planning officers looking at how the pandemic has impacted on the island's future for residents and businesses regarding planning. As a result, it has now been decided to hold a full review of the local plan to take into account some of these likely impacts. This will mean the island plan consultation proposed for November will now not take place and will be delayed to a future date. I look for a second. Well, I think Councillor Brading has already seconded it, Chairman.
Councillor Brading.
Yes, please. I'd like to second it, and I'd just like to say a few words, if I may. I do fully support the amendment, simply because Cabinet agreed last week as part of our COVID-19 response strategy and our recovery plan to do exactly this. So it makes this motion for Councillor Lilley totally pointless. Councillor Abraham and the Cabinet have been discussing the island plan options throughout the pandemic prior to our decision being made on the 9th of July. I would hope that everyone supports this clear and sensible amendment on the way forward with this plan. And as Councillor Brodie said earlier, we have a third motion to get through. So rather than debate this any further, I would hope we could go straight to the vote on this. Otherwise, we're going to run out of time with 14 minutes to go to discuss the third agenda item. So I would like to hope that everyone would support the amendment, go to the vote and move the meeting forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brading. The amendment to the motion is on your screens for you to read. It's quite clear. And Councillor Lilley, do you accept the amendment to the motion?
It's difficult because I would like to consult colleagues before I did.
So you're not accepting it?
I wish to.
Okay.
No, I will not accept it this time because I'm not in a position to consult with my island group colleagues.
So we will debate the amendment first, and then vote on that, and then we will go back to the substantive motion and vote on that one. If it's all.
Move to the vote, Chair.
If we can, if I can just remind members, we only got about 15 minutes left for motions altogether. Councillor Brodie, you wanted to speak?
Well, yes. I mean, I'm happy to move to the vote if you want to do that. If you're not, I'd just like to say something. Well, if you could tell me what you're going to do.
I'm happy to move to the vote, Chair, as well, and would second Councillor Brodie's proposal.
Well, Chair, can I just say something very quickly? When I saw Councillor Lilley's motion last week, I almost immediately contacted Councillor Abraham because I couldn't understand why we were seeking a review of the island plan. And Councillor Abraham very kindly pointed out to me what he'd said at Cabinet the night before when I hadn't been connected in regarding that, which explained that. And I don't understand why Councillor Lilley wasn't able to contact Councillor Abraham to get that confirmation. This is almost exactly what he's asking for. It's not that hard to assimilate to an motion and an amendment, and I would have thought it's very straightforward. And I will vote in favour of the amendment. There will be a review because of COVID. I'm pleased at that, and I urge that we deal with it. We get the amendment accepted, and then the substantive motion, and move on. Thank you, Chair.
I'll say.
Thank you, Councillor.
Can I come back in on that? Right.
I think we have to cut it now, Councillor Lilley.
Sorry.
Councillor Andre first.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. May I just speak on this? Sorry, I'm waiting for advice from the Chair.
Yes, would you like to speak, please?
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to say that, just to make the point that the local plan is not just about housing, but the amendment as it stands, I think it's sensible that we, in light of COVID, which has changed everything, and it's only in terms of the local plan, I think it's only right that we do delay. So in terms of the local plan, looking at across the piece about our heritage, our environment, encompassing biosphere, the whole range that comes within the local plan, yes, I can support this amendment.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. If nobody else wants to speak, I'd like to take us to the vote. Councillor Lilley, would you like to come back?
Yes, I do. I wish to I will accept the amendment, right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we go to the vote. Thank you very much. If I can have a paper. Thank you. So we're voting on Councillor Abraham's motion, which is in front of you on your screens. Councillor Abraham is yours anyway, so you indicate you vote for it, yes? Councillor Axford?
For.
Councillor Bertie?
For.
Councillor Beston?
For.
Councillor Brading?
For.
Councillor Chapman?
We've lost connection, Chair.
Connection. Councillor Churchman?
For.
Councillor Hastings? For. Councillor Henry?
For.
Councillor Hobart?
For.
Councillor Hollis?
For.
Councillor Hutchinson?
For.
Okay, Councillor Kilpatrick? No connection. Councillor Mosdale?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Mirwell?
For.
Councillor Outlaw?
For.
Councillor Peace?
For.
Councillor Price?
For.
Councillor Quirk?
For.
Councillor Tyndall?
For.
Councillor Ward?
For.
Councillor Whittle?
For.
Councillor Andre?
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Downer?
For.
Councillor Fuller?
For.
Councillor Howe?
For.
Councillor Medland? Councillor Medland? No connection. We come back to you. Councillor PC Wilcox?
Yeah, for. Yeah, support.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Jones Evans?
For.
Councillor Love?
For.
Councillor Lilley?
For.
Councillor Brodie?
For.
Councillor Barry?
For.
Councillor Garrett?
For.
Councillor Smart?
For.
Councillor Stewart?
For.
I'll vote for. We're going back to Councillor Medland. Lost connection.
Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
Charles.
I'm
Yeah.
back online. I'm for.
Back online. Okay. Councillor Chapman, do you vote for the motion or?
I vote for. I'm back online. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chair, Councillor Medland has confirmed that he's lost his connection.
Sorry. I vote for. Councillor Kilpatrick, thank you for voting in the chat box. Thank you very much. And Councillor Medland indicated he's voting for. It's not indicated.
He's lost his connection, Chair.
Connection. Thank you very much. That is unanimous, apart from Councillor Medland, who we've lost. So that motion, the amendment to the motion, goes through.
The motion.
Thank you. That's the motion that goes through. Thank you very much. That's carried. We're running out of time very quickly. We've got one left by Councillor Medland. He's not. Is anybody else who would like to move this by Councillor Medland on his behalf?
Councillor Andre is the group leader.
Councillor Andre?
Yes, Chair. I would like to move this motion on behalf of Councillor Medland and look for a seconder. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Could we?
Stop a second.
I'll second it.
Could I just say this one? Thank you.
Stop, take some advice.
Just to take some advice. Yeah, I'm afraid it's only Councillor Medland that can do the motion himself, and not others. In this case, Councillor Medland, are you there? No. Councillor Medland, lost connection. We can't take his motion if Councillor Medland can't deliver it. Thank you very much. So let's to read this one.
Chairman, I'm here now. I've just reconnected.
Thank you. You need to deliver your motion personally, Councillor Medland.
Thank you, Chairman.
We've got 5 minutes in total.
Sorry?
We've got 5 minutes left.
Oh, right, okay. I just want to mention that Councillor Perk's written to me saying he's been trying to connect since 4:45, so perhaps we'll include him as an apology. Okay, I don't know how we're doing this in 5 minutes. Motion concerns the process of the public consultation for the oil exploration application at Arrowton. I fear that this creates a potential liability for legal action taken against the Isle of Wight Council for its failure to comply with the relevant legislation. Secondary legislation of May 15th, under which this consultation is being conducted, includes the additional paragraph 1F. So quotations: A, the persons who are likely to have an interest in the application must include the persons who live or work in or otherwise have a direct connection with the area and the proposed works are located. And the reasonable steps that are taken by the local authority, 1, may include use of social media and communication by electronic means, and 2, must be proportionate to the scale and impact of the proposed works. Councillor Stewart has pointed out that technically we have carried out the minimum requirement. My point is whether it can be defended in any way is proportional given the scale of importance of this application, its effects lasting perhaps centuries. In my opinion, this is a application since Isle of Wight County Council rejected the proposal for a nuclear power station at Newtown Creek in 1958. In 2016, this council agreed the planning process for applications under the oil drilling licenses granted in 2015 should include 10 key policies of the island plan. None of these are given as options in the planning portal. The planning portal has multiple problems, but we've discussed that internally. This is therefore a critically important application, yet the Isle of Wight Council has chosen to go ahead with traditional legal means of public consultation and basic political rights are in emergency suspension. As pointed out elsewhere in tonight's papers, the Isle of Wight Council has a highly competent communications team who are able to use a potential barrage of social media messaging. Yet our comms team have been silent on this consultation. Normally, Isle of Wight Council's public consultations are well advertised on the homepage of our website, but this time there is nothing. In total, our publicity consisted of 2 A4 notices near the site. One is in a field some way from a public footpath, and the other on the main road, more usefully, I'm told, blew away after a couple of days. The only other notice was a small classified advert in the Isle of Wight County Press. Furthermore, until I managed to get it updated on July 10th, the highlighted text box on the planning page denied the possible existence of any new public consultation. This was the out-of-date information. Therefore, the Isle of Wight Council has not only failed to act in a manner which is proportionate, for most of the application period, our website denied that the consultation was taking place at all. This contradiction, I believe, undermines a minimal statutory legal obligations. There has been a misinformation on dates, which caused the consultation to be extended to 7 weeks. Considering this multiple failure and the legal exposure it potentially creates, I believe it is in the best interest of this council to halt the current consultation and then relaunch it using the normal public consultation methods at a time when we can comply with primary legislation to ensure a full, open and democratic process. And in particular, because there is no particular rush for this, I mean, it's taken years and years for the application to come forward. Why can't we leave it for a matter of a few weeks until the emergency legislation has been relaxed and we can go back to having normal planning procedures? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Medland. Can I just say, this is a very technical motion, very technical. And I think the planning committee has had up-to-date training yesterday morning on this particular subject as well. And I think, I will read this to you, according to the Constitution, any motion subject to a matter of which comes within the province of the Cabinet or any other committee, panel or board may, after it's been moved in and on the decision of the chairman. Therefore, I will refer this without discussion to the relevant planning committee to discuss. And that's final. Thank you. Thank you very much. We move on to number 10. Questions for the leader. Question 1 from Councillor Brodie.
Thank you, Chair. Does the council leader support the shameful remarks of the Prime Minister that many care homes, presumably including those on the Isle of Wight, did not follow proper procedures on coronavirus?
And Councillor Stewart, would you like to come in there?
Yes, thank you for your question, Councillor Brodie. I do not speak for the Prime Minister. I can state that our island care homes have been magnificent throughout this pandemic. Everyone thought that the battle against COVID-19 would be fought in hospitals. In actual fact, care homes have been a major front line of that battle for much of the last 18 weeks. Island care home staff and their managers have worked tirelessly in the most challenging of circumstances. They have systematically put the welfare and safety of their residents at the centre of everything they've done. For me, it is not only the professionalism of care home staff and managers which has shone through in these past 18 weeks, it is their sheer humanity and selflessness. People working in our care homes are amongst the very finest professionals we have seen during this pandemic. And I say that in the full knowledge that the breadth of professionals who have responded to the COVID-19 pandemic is an impressive one in itself. The Prime Minister's office, as well as the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, will very quickly clarified the meaning behind the Prime Minister's remark, and I have no doubt that clarification had the endorsement of the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Brodie, do you have a supplementary there? Sorry, you need your microphone on.
Yeah, sorry, it was coming on and off. Yes, I'd just like to respond to Councillor Stewart's answer to my question. I thank him for being honest and for reflecting the overwhelming view of Islanders regarding care home staff during the coronavirus. And I hear what he says about the Prime Minister. I understand that. But I do think that in the many private conversations he seems to have with government, that he might have a little word with them about getting a consistent message and being sensible about what they say, because people are getting fed up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brodie. And then we got question 2 from Antri from Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. So my first question is, what is the overall expenditure currently estimated to be on the St Mary's Junction Improvement Scheme?
Again, thank you for your question, Councillor Garrett. The Newport Strategic Junction improvements are funded from a specific grant from the Department of Transport at no cost to the Council General Fund. This fund is for a package of measures, including the St Mary's scheme, to improve junctions around Newport, and is not available to be spent on other initiatives. The budget of £7,862,113 outlined for the St Mary's scheme is currently projected to be £7,613,613. The scheme is set to complete to time at the end of the year.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, Chair. I thank the leader for those figures. Does the leader share my surprise that those figures are significantly greater than the £6 million cap that was envisaged in the Cabinet report of late 2018? Is there an explanation for this?
Thank you for that supplementary. I'll need to give you a written response because I would want to check my facts and make sure you get accurate data, because that's important to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your second question, Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. Is the Leader of the Council satisfied that the expenditure of money provided under the reopening of the High Street Safely Fund has achieved value for money as envisaged in the Council's corporate plan?
Again, thank you for your question, Councillor Garrett. As you will appreciate, it has been very important to those residents who have concerns about going back to the shops be able to feel safe and confident. Under the Reopening the High Street Safety Funds, the Council has completed the first phase of work that will enable our community to return to the High Street with confidence and feel enabled to make social distancing decisions as their shop is complete. Working closely with the town councils and local businesses groups, our social distancing measures and the business toolkits, supported by island-wide by our communications, have helped to provide that reassurance over this period. The locations have been determined to meet the government guidance. The package of measures involved the installation of signs and pavement graphics to raise awareness with the aim of facilitating social distancing in areas where that is difficult. The physical measures provided alongside the advice to business and associated communications have been funded by the government under the criteria set out in the Reopening High Street Fund. Over the coming weeks, the impact on pedestrian movement will be assessed to ensure that there is enough space for appropriate distancing as the High Street slowly become busier. These measures will be maintained until early September, after which further extension of the scheme will be reviewed. We will review where issues or pinch points occur and where appropriate consultations with the respective town councils, which may result in further measures in place, can be undertaken.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Do you have a supplementary on that, Councillor Garrett?
Yes, I'm not quite sure that Leader of Council actually explained whether or not he was satisfied with that. I appreciate that he may want to reserve his position on that, given his response, but I would hope that he would take into account the fact that in figures that have been provided to me, which I understand are available for publication, something like a fifth of that money has gone on items such as project management and design. This does not sound to me like the value of money that we would envisage under the corporate plan. And will he commit himself to a full review of how that money was used to see what may be learned from this process?
Yes, I'm happy to review the funding, but I just would point out that value for money can be measured in more than figures. Value for money can be measured in how safe we feel, make our community feel, how effective we've been using what we've spent on the actual proposals. But he, like I am sure, would want to act in the best interest of the community. And I'm sure we'll have some additional as the government decide whether or not they're going to have face masks in shops, etc. So I will do that work and come back to him. But at this stage, I'm satisfied it was the right thing to do to protect our community.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Stewart. That brings us to the end of tonight's meeting. I would like to thank members for your patience, perseverance. It's not an easy one to do, and I'm sure we will get used to it. And I would like to thank our officers here. It's been a big help to me, and I thank them for their support. Thank you, councillors, and I close the meeting now.
Well done.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Well done, Chair.